So now that you know whatever position you pick has to put you into a state of flow, in order to put you in a state of flow, we have to make sure whatever position you pick aligns with something called your natural inclinations. Natural inclinations is a term coined by one of the best authors alive today by the name of Robert Greene, and he explained this concept in his book Mastery, which I highly recommend this book by the way. Natural inclinations are those things you have just always leaned towards your entire life. Maybe that's art, maybe it's socializing, maybe it's math. Maybe you've always had an eye for aesthetics. Maybe you've always had an eye for small details. Maybe you've always been more organized than other people in your life. Whatever it is, it's important to know that everyone, including you, have natural inclinations, even if you don't think so right now. And the best way to explain it is to explain what mine are. All my life, I've always naturally gravitated towards two things. Number one being creativity, and number two being analytical stuff. I remember I would always draw crude 3D drawings of cars and guns as a little kid. I did graphic design and AP art in high school, I played guitar, you get the point, very creative endeavors. On the other hand, I also remember screwing around with my dad's computer a lot as a kid. I was also decent at math, not the best but above average, so I definitely have more analytical natural inclinations as well. One of the first things I tried was being a graphic designer. At first I thought it was pretty cool, but then as I did it more, I started feeling that there was something missing. That's when I eventually realized that I had this analytical side to me that needed to be flexed, but graphic design just wasn't flexing it. It was all creative with no analytical component to it. So my creative side was satisfied, but I was left wanting more. I wasn't feeling fulfilled at all. I wasn't getting into a state of flow. That's why when I got into full stack web development for that app I built, full stack means you build both the front-facing side of the website that people actually interact with, while also coding the back-end side with the server and database and everything. When I got into that, I was a lot happier. I got into flow a lot more because it was a really good mix of both the creative and the analytical. Because on one hand, you're designing all the visual and creative stuff, like the actual web design, the buttons, the fonts, the colors. But on the other hand, you have to deal with all the analytical stuff with dealing with the server and the database. On the other hand, if I were to have just done back-end web development, it would have been kind of depressing, because back-end is all analytical without much creativity. I would have just been miserable, and I would have gotten creamed by developers who do get fulfillment when it's all analytical. Take sales as another example. There are people making $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, $30,000 a month, all from selling over the phone for companies. But if I were to do that, I would make $0, because I'd rather bang my head against the wall instead of having to talk to strangers all day. But for some people, they love the thrill of getting someone to say yes. They love it when people tell them no, or when they get an objection. They see it as a fun challenge. They've always been more social. They get energy from talking to strangers, whereas me talking to strangers drains me of energy. These people are naturally more inclined towards sales, and therefore will always be more successful at it than I ever will. But that's okay, because I know what my natural inclinations are, and I stick to my strengths. And now it's your turn to figure out what your natural inclinations are. So set a timer for 5 minutes this time, and reach back into the depths of your memory, back to your childhood, and try to narrow down what your natural inclinations are. For some people, this might be a really simple and fast exercise. For others, it might be a little bit more challenging, but that's okay. What you want to do is look back to your childhood, to high school, to college, to your past jobs, to see what you really enjoyed doing and what you really did not enjoy. What do your parents say you always gravitated towards as a kid? Start narrowing it down. And if you really have no idea, don't stress about it too much, because one of the best ways to figure out what your natural inclinations are is to just try a bunch of stuff to see if you like it and pivot if you don't. Just like I did with graphic design and a whole slew of other things I've tried. That way you'll slowly start to narrow down who you are. Most people say, oh, I suck at everything, when in reality, they've only tried like 3 things. So set a timer for 5 minutes, do this exercise, it's definitely worth it. Let us know what your natural inclinations are in the comments below. Congrats on making it this far, give yourself a pat on the back. And now it's time to break down all the remote jobs out there to see which match your natural inclinations the best.